I never thought the woman I married would draw a line at my own mother. My name is Mark. I'm 41 years old, and for the last 14 years, I've been married to a woman I truly believed was my partner through everything. We built a solid life together, a nice house in the suburbs outside Chicago, 2 kids, and a routine that felt steady. I worked hard at my job, came home every evening, helped with the children, and made sure my 82-year-old mother, who lived with us, was cared for with dignity. Mom had been with us for 6 years after Dad passed. Her health had declined, arthritis, a weak heart, and fading memory, but she still lit up when I walked into her room. I took it as my responsibility to give her peace and respect in her final years. I'd help her to the bathroom, bring her meals, sit with her in the evenings, and listen to her repeat the same old family stories. My wife, Jessica, never seemed to mind. Or at least, that's what I believed. Looking back, the signs were there, quiet and easy to miss. The heavy sighs when I asked her to check on Mom. The short answers when I mentioned taking her to the doctor. The way she started, spending more time on her phone instead of being present with the family. I brushed it off. I told myself every marriage goes through busy seasons. But that night, everything changed. It was around 11:30 p.m. I was still at the office finishing a late project when my phone rang. It was my daughter, voice trembling. "Dad, Grandma fell in the bathroom. She can't get up." I dropped everything and drove home as fast as I could. When I walked through the door, Mom was lying on the cold tile floor, crying softly in pain, her frail body shaking. Jessica was sitting in the living room, watching TV. I looked at her and said, "Jessica, help me lift her, please." She barely turned her head. "I'm exhausted, Mark. I've had a long day." "You handle it. She's your mother." Her words hit me like ice. My 82-year-old mother was on the floor in pain, and the woman I had shared a life with for 14 years wouldn't even stand up to help. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply walked past her, knelt down, and carefully lifted my mother myself. It took all my strength, but I carried her back to her bed, cleaned her up, gave her medicine, and stayed by her side until she finally fell asleep. The entire time, Jessica remained on the couch. That night I barely slept. I kept hearing her words in my head, "She's your mother," as if family was something you could split down the middle. I should have noticed it earlier. The respect had been fading for a long time. I just didn't want to see it. The next morning, Mom was in rough shape. Her hip was badly bruised, and she had developed a fever. The doctor said she needed to go to the hospital for scans right away. I got everything ready, changed her clothes, packed her bag, and went to our bedroom to tell Jessica, "I'm taking Mom to the hospital. Can you come with me? I might need help there." She was still in bed, scrolling on her phone. Without looking up, she replied, "Mark, I have my own plans today. I can't drop everything every time your mother needs something. You're her son. This is your responsibility." I stood there silently for a long moment. Something inside me shifted permanently. It wasn't loud anger. It was a deep, cold clarity, the kind that comes when you finally see someone for who they really are, not who you wanted them to be. I nodded slowly. "Okay." I took Mom to the hospital alone. The whole drive she kept holding my hand, whispering I'm becoming a burden on you. I told her what I always told her: you raised me. This is nothing. While waiting for the test results, I sat there thinking about our marriage. All the excuses, all the times she treated my mother like an inconvenience who had overstayed. All the times I chose silence to keep the peace. I had been swallowing my dignity for too long. When I brought Mom back home that evening, Jessica was getting ready to go out with her friends. She saw us and casually asked, "Everything all right?" Like nothing had happened. I didn't respond. I simply took my mother to her room, made her comfortable, and closed the door. That night I slept in the living room. Not for drama. I just couldn't lie next to someone who had shown me so clearly where my mother and I stood in her priorities. Jessica noticed the shift. She tried talking once. "Why are you making such a big deal?" "Old people fall. It happens." I looked at her calmly and said, "When it's your mother, I'll remember those words." She laughed it off and went to sleep. But I saw the unease in her eyes. For the first time, she was feeling the distance I was creating, not through yelling or fighting, but through quiet detachment. I stopped asking her for anything involving my mother. I stopped sharing my concerns. I stopped trying to include her. I had started observing instead of reacting. The next day I made moves. I spoke with my sister and we arranged for Mom to stay with her for a while until we could get full-time care in place. I also started waking up earlier, focusing on my own health and work with fresh intensity. I wasn't doing it to punish Jessica. I was doing it because I finally realized I couldn't keep living half a life. Jessica came home that evening to find Mom's room half empty. She looked surprised. "Where's your mom?" I answered calmly, "She's with my sister. I don't want her feeling like a burden in her own home anymore." For the first time in years, Jessica looked genuinely unsettled. She tried to argue, tried to say I was overreacting, but her words rang hollow. The house felt different now. The warmth I used to bring home had faded. I remained polite and I still provided, but I was no longer emotionally invested the same way. A few weeks later, when her own mother got sick and needed support, she quietly asked me for help managing things. I helped because that's who I am, but I helped with the same emotional distance she had shown me. She felt it deeply. She regretted it. Not in dramatic apologies, but in the nervous glances, the sudden efforts to reconnect, a realization that something important had broken. I didn't destroy the marriage. I didn't create chaos. I simply stopped pretending. I chose my peace, my mother's dignity, and my own self-respect. I leveled up, better health, sharper focus at work, stronger boundaries. I started living like a man who finally knew his worth. The biggest lesson I learned is this: never ignore disrespect, especially when it's aimed at the people who sacrificed everything for you. Love without respect is just attachment, and once respect is lost, no amount of sorry can rebuild the foundation. I didn't lose my wife that day. I found myself, and that, more than anything, was the real revenge. Thank you for listening. If this hit home, leave a comment. I read every single one. Until next time, stay strong.